wrote something and I want to read this to you because I want to begin this video about codependency with a bit of a story of what your day may looks like if this is how codependency shows up for you. So I'm going to look at this over to the side and I'm going to read the story that I wrote for you guys because it just fell on me to write this story. And this is just a little synopsis of what life may look like when you're codependent. At the end of every day, you realize you spent most, if not all of your day dedicated to everyone else around you. Everyone looks to you for everything. And while this is exhausting, you wear this as a badge of honor. This is what you're meant to do, right? But there's a part of you that silently asks yourself, what could life look like if I spent just a little more time on me? Why does no one around me ask me what I need? And if I'm supposed to do all of this for everyone else, why am I so overwhelmed, burdened, and honestly not happy? I'm Samaria, and I'm a healing coach dedicated to helping women free themselves and start the transition to a life that is more fulfilling with love and happiness so that you can attract more of what you want for yourself and also be more of a happier and loving person to those around you. And a part of being able to be that person is understanding what codependency is and how that can show up in your life. So, what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the reasons I wrote that codependency is so important to not only be aware of, but also know why it's important to begin the healing process. So, before we go into what exactly codependency is, I think it's important that you understand the ways in which codependency is actually impacting your life and the ways that it's showing up likely or could be showing up for you. Everyone's different, of course, but typically these are some of the things you're going to see when you're dealing with codependency and when it really has a huge grip on your life. So one of the first things that I always noticed, and I noticed in myself, was a overwhelming sense of anxiety. You're constantly on edge. You're constantly on edge because you're concerned with you're concerned with everyone around you. You're concerned with what their problems are, how their problems are going to show up in life, and what's needed to take care of their problems. And when their failures happen, they become your failures. So you spend most of your life, if not all of your life, concerned with everyone else's outcome. And we could go into what I would call the root cause of that, but we won't do that today because that's a whole another topic for another video. Another way you're going to see this in your life is low self-esteem. Think about it. Why would you have low self-esteem? You spend no time concerned with yourself. You spend no time wondering how you can improve your life, what makes you happy, what to do to prioritize yourself. Your life is spent being concerned and worried about everyone else. Why would you think highly of yourself when you spend no time on yourself and you pour nothing into yourself? So low self-esteem is another thing that you see when you are codependent. Poor relationships. And again, you have poor relationships because why? Your focus isn't on yourself in the relationship. And I'm not saying the relationships are one-sided. What I am saying is that you are responsible for yourself in a relationship and how your needs are met. And a lot of times when you're codependent, you spend so much time reading the other person, figuring out what they need and giving them what they need and overexerting yourself. And guess what you do? You expect that person to do the exact same thing for you. You expect this person to read your mind. You expect this person to overfulfill and overpour into your cup. And they may not do that. They may not do that. And so what happens? You become angry, you become resentful, you're upset because no one sees you in the relationship. All they see is what you do for them. You don't give them a chance to do anything for you because you're always exerting yourself and overexerting yourself in relationships. Whether that's a job, whether that's a friendship, whether that's an intimate relationship between you and another person, you're constantly having poor relationships because you are overpouring yourself into everyone else. Depression. Think about it. If all the things that I just mentioned are things that you have happened to you, of course you're depressed. You're depressed because nothing's going the way you want it to in life. No one cares about you on the surface, quite honestly. So you're honestly very depressed because there's nothing you do to pour into yourself, and everyone is continuing to take from you. And let's not add anxiety into all of this. And finally, on my list, these are the things that I listed as important because these are things that I saw in my very own life and these things literally impacted my state of being. Finally, poor health. And I should have that little picture with a multiplication problem or an addition problem, adding all these things. Of course, poor health is going to be the result of all of this. You don't prioritize yourself. You live in a constant state of anxiety. You have poor relationships and you're depressed. Of course, your health suffers. Of course, you're in bad health. And so these are some of the reasons why codependency is something that you should most certainly prioritize in your healing if you are serious about living a better life. But now that we've talked about some of the ways that codependency can impact you in very negative ways, I want to give what is a good definition that I found on the internet of what codependency is, and one that I relate to the most because I felt like this is exactly how codependency showed up in my life and was thing that created the reason why I'm here today. I literally had to change my life because I was at the end of my list. I ended up with poor health. I was in and out of the ER an entire year. My body literally almost shut down on me because of the amount of stress I was under for years, several years, probably 20 years of my life I spent being constantly concerned and overexerting myself for everyone else around me until my body said, we can't do this anymore. And I'm on a mission now to help people, especially women, because I feel like this is definitely something that shows up in a lot of women. Help you understand how codependency is impacting you in your life. And I want to help you prevent being rushed in the ambulance to the ER, not sure if you're ever going to see your children again because you have overexerted yourself so much. And it sounds probably unimaginable to think that this could all happen just from being codependent, but it actually can. And the definition I'm going to read for you breaks down how and why that can happen. Codependency is a learned behavior that can be passed down from one generation to another. It is an emotional and behavioral condition that impacts a person's individual ability to have a healthy, mutually satisfying relationship. It is also known as a relationship addiction because people with codependency often form or maintain relationships that are one-sided and that are emotionally or physically abusive and destructive. Codependency not only impacts you, it impacts you because of all the things that I listed, but if you are a mother, if you're a daughter, wife, friend, whatever you may be, this impacts other people around you. And I bring that up because if you are codependent, then what is your primary issue? Your primary concern is everyone else. So it's important for you to be mindful of the fact that you being codependent is actually impacting everyone else around you. So we're almost out of time today. And what I want to do is before we end today, I want to talk to you about the process to healing from codependency. But before we talk about healing from codependency, I know that I'm going to say this and it may come across the wrong way. I just want to note that I believe and feel, and these are things that I'm still working on. So I'm still in process. I'm still a work in progress. I believe that this is a daily practice. I believe that you have to train yourself, especially if you are discovering after 10, 20 years that you have lived yourself in your life in a codependent way. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and just, oh, I'm not codependent anymore. Being codependent is literally the foundation of your life. Depending on how this came about in your life, it's the way that you were raised to be a codependent person. And if that is true for you, then you're not going to wake up tomorrow and just snap out of it and no longer be codependent. You're going to need to adapt to a new normal. And so the ways that I healed from codependency and some of the ways that I've learned that can be very helpful to you, I want to share those with you. And we'll end the topic of codependency today. So the first step, and this is why this video is number one, is to recognize and acknowledge being codependent. First, you need to even be aware of the fact that you are codependent and that you have lived and you've behaved in such a way and that you have not only impacted other people this way, but also yourself, and most importantly, yourself in a very great manner by being such a codependent person. So that is step one, learning what codependency is and how it impacts you. Step two is to go and seek therapy or coaching. Therapy, I believe, in addition to coaching, can be helpful That is what I chose to do. I had a therapist that helped walk me through my codependency. She was very gentle in teaching me, revealing to me these codependent ways. I believe working with her helped me even be able to open my mind to this being a possibility in my life. I don't think without her, I would have ever recognized I was codependent. And then from there, I started to seek coaching and other opportunities. So therapy and coaching can be very helpful to you in learning how to manage your codependent ways. Second, thirdly, would be educating yourself through books, through webinars, through videos, whatever the case may be, however you learn, journaling, all these things, educate yourself and then journal about it. I'm going to have a list of some of my very favorite books throughout this journey and how it has completely changed my own life. This one's here, but this is still a work in progress, but it's very important. You have to learn to set boundaries. And especially if you're a mom, you got to learn to set boundaries with the people around you who have truthfully used you at their leisure. Whenever you're needed, you show up. And so you're gonna have to learn to say, okay, whether that's give me an hour, give me whatever the case may be, you've got to learn to let people know that, hey, I deserve to be given a moment. Self-care. This goes back and this ties in with a low self-esteem. Do things that make you happy. It's not always about being beautiful or buying clothes, but doing something that you actually are finding yourself enjoying is what this is about. Find something that you enjoy and that brings you joy as a form of self-care. A support system as you go through this is important. I can tell you from my own journey, people around you are not probably going to get the fact that you have discovered you are codependent and that this is how you navigate it. Because as much as this is your normal, this is their normal too. And so now that you want to do things different and now that you want to set up boundaries and put yourself first, it's not always going to come across very well. And so you're going to need people who can support you as you make this transition and help you make this transition for yourself and those around you. And mindfulness is the last thing on this list. Mindfulness includes meditation, journaling, and breath work. These are all modalities that I use to help heal myself as I went through this codependency process, and I still use these things today. Um, I'm light years ahead of where I was, especially with breath work. I highly recommend breath work. I'll do a video on breath work and talk about how important breath work has been in my healing journey. And so I'm going to leave you with this today. And I hope that you found this information beneficial. And I look forward to sharing more information with you on the codependency healing journey. And I hope that you have a wonderful day.